Salutation shades, and welcome back to your one-stop shop for all things strange and unusual, talking with shadows. The conversation everyone has, but no one wants to admit to. Here with your host, Vic Whately.
And Marcus D. And I am staring at the new alcohol that we're going to be drinking today.
We getting right into it on the alcohol.
Well, no, I am. But first, before we do that, big shout out to our newest patron, Michael.
What?
Yes, thank you for joining the One Candle Society patrons. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much, Michael. We're so super glad to have you.
We're drinking this Three Floyd's Gumball Head?
Three Floyd's Gumball Head American Wheat Pale Ale. That's a hell of a name.
That's a mouthful. Well, I picked it up because I was going to CVS to pick up my wife some Benadryl, and I had to pick up alcohol for the episode today. And this was like jumped off the screen because it looks like it was doodled by a kindergartner. And I'm like, this is just right up our alley.
It says it's not normal. So if it's normal, I'm going to be like really hard on this alcohol.
Well, if you ever get into alcohol, the first thing you need to understand about IPAs is that to make an IPA, you have to come up with the strangest name possible for it. Like Three Floyd Bubblegum Super Sailor Moon, Raging Wolf. Beer.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and try it.
Yeah, like you have to do that. That's like the law when it comes to
we can't talk about beer this long without me wanting to drink it. It's nice. I would not say it's out of the ordinary though.
Like every single IPA. So IPAs are like the catfish of the beer world because they make it look so much better on the outside than what it actually is.
Are you personally attacking me because I love to cook catfish?
No, that's catfish is a phrase when a person looks different than really what they are. You schmuck. That's like
so kind of like you in any given situation.
Like, yeah, I get that. Like, yeah, sure, absolutely. But that's how IPAs are. Like, tell me I'm lying. Our listeners, tell me if I'm lying about IPAs.
There are better and worse IPAs, but they do tend to taste fairly similar.
I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying is every IPA makes it look so much cooler than what it is. It's like you're getting the experience of drinking it. Like that's what you're buying with an IPA.
Yeah, I always looking at this. I thought it was going to be more unique than it was, and then it ended up being more. And it's not bad. It's actually a pretty solid IPA, but it's still just an IPA.
If Webster's Dictionary is listening, that is exactly how IPA should be defined in the dictionary. Exactly.
But one more thing I want to do. I want to give a shout out to my friend Montia, who's recently become a listener. She lives in Belgium, and she wants me to inform all of you of one important thing. French fries are not French. They're from Belgium. So next time you see someone like chomping down on some French fries, smack them and correct them on what they actually should be called. Reclaim Belgium fries.
And also let us know, what was it, Stella Artois?
Yeah. She also commented that Stella Artois was Belgium.
Is also from Belgium, so thank you for educating us on Belgian history. Monty, we appreciate that so much. Thank you. If you didn't check out our episode last week, was where we started talking about time and space anomalies, and we kicked it off with one of the most famous time and space anomalies, the Philadelphia experiment. A strange, weird experiment in which the United States government might have been using strange technology, causing a ship to disappear from one port.
Or did they?
To another port.
Yeah, they did.
I'm 100%
or did
sure.
They?
Yeah. Ghost Feel!
I freaking love that name. Cuss in the first few seconds of the...
So proud of you, Feel. You got Vic. Actually, I think that's the first time that actually Vic has actually cussed in the podcast section.
I'm feeling loose today. We got into a really heated debate right before this, so I'm already loose.
We should have been recording. So that's Vic 1 versus Marcus D for those keeping track. I think 10. 97.
You're definitely going to have to bleep that one because it's within the first 4 minutes.
Iris Field said, yes, the U.S. government messing with something they shouldn't.
No, not us.
All the time. That's a lot of American paranormal folklore. It is usually the American government messing with something that it shouldn't, and it went wrong.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Dan Ward, super patron, said, "I love how so far that every time Ellie has come on the show, she's been conned into coming on the show.
It's the only way we can get her to come on.
Yes.
We have to trick her.
Yes. It's like we leave little pieces of candy for her to follow. Then once she gets into the studio, we just slam the door closed and she can't get out until she's in the episode.
Yeah, the one that we're going to be doing with her soon for One Candle TV on the patron stuff is really just because she's like, oh, you're talking about witches? You should have had me on. And I'm like, okay, we'll have you on for this. She's like, no.
Hang on. I just read the rest of Dan's comments. This is way more important. And I'm going to pick this another time because you didn't see it in the last episode. I've got my 3D printer working, and I've got Warhammer minis to print well. So if you guys want some for cheap to nothing, let me know.
Hey,
Holy fuck!
We need to swap STLs because I have some Warhammer STLs. I'd love to send you the ones I have and get the ones that you have I don't, because I'm always looking for more things to print.
And good job for Dan to get me to just cuss on the podcast. So shout out today to all the fans today, because you got both me and Vic to cuss in the first 6 minutes of the podcast.
You guys are getting us worked up.
I know. This is going to be an intense episode. Yeah. So, well, I'm sorting through. Schmuck. Avis Rex, the Dark Phoenix, said, Skinwalker Ranch. The coast-to-coast broadcast that got me into more than just Bigfoot. The Pandora's box that once opened, you will forever fall down the rabbit hole. Also, I like Vic's canon idea and Marcus' real-life reason as to why what was done was snuffy. Both sides make sense in a way. Which is true. We might have to dedicate a whole episode where we talk about Snuffleupagus and his impact on the world, because I think we could do that.
I guess I get to talk about tulpas, so sure, I'm in.
Well, I'm just saying, is that the first instance of a possible tulpa, in modern media? Yeah, because it goes way back. He goes way back to, the 70s.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about it.
Tell me right now. Actually, if there's another reference to a tulpa that's in the media that came out before Snuffleupagus, Sesame Street, when he made his first appearance, comment below, please. Because I would be very curious to see if there is anything else in actual American media or worldwide. Sure,
I think there might be some in international media, because I want to say there's a
American
documentary on the lady who first kind of brought the concept of tulpa to the West. But yeah, I don't know if in American media there is.
Right. All right. So let's kick off the episode, man, because I am ready to get into this. So for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Mandela Effect. And if you've never heard of the Mandela Effect, which I would be super shocked for any of our listeners that have not heard about it, it's this effect where one person will remember something in a way, will remember something throughout history, like a detail about something. They'll be talking to a group of people, and it turns out that their particular detail was wrong. And this particular term was coined in 2010 by paranormal by paranormal consultant. My bad there. Consultant. Can't read today. Paranormal consultant Fiona Broome. If you're not familiar with Fiona Broome, she's actually a paranormal investigator that goes back to the 1970s and was the first known to coin the term the Mandela Effect in 2010, which actually shocked me that I thought this word had been around way longer than 2010.
No, there's accounts of the Mandela Effect that go long before that, but it was never given a name.
The phrase.
Yeah.
Fun fact, she also coined the term the sparkle effect.
Really?
The sparkles effect, like in ghost hunting. It's this really weird ocular thing, where if you're taking a photograph with the camera, there's these weird speck of light that's in a camera that you'll see that are falling. But when you take the photo, they don't appear. They don't appear actually in the photo. Because I kept getting these confused with orbs. But these particular effects are weird, like little balls of light that sparkle down, and they're supposed to be used as a way in order to try to see where ghost activity is. And she apparently coined this term in the 90s.
I would really like to talk to someone who's an expert on photography on that. See if there's an answer to it.
Well, the weird thing is, I think as technology has advanced, you've started seeing less, because I didn't know what that term was, by the way. I had to look that up. But I think as we've gone to more digital type cameras with that, you start seeing the sparkle effect a lot less. Because I really kept thinking it was orbs. Like, I started like looking up Fiona, I just fell on this weird rabbit hole of looking at her. But she coined this term. She's known for coining this term in 2010. About the Mandela Effect, because it's like one of the most famous types of Mandela effects that you could think of, and it's this concept of, when did Nelson Mandela die? Did some people believe that Nelson Mandela died way back in South Africa when he died in prison, or did he die? I believe it was 2013 when he actually died. Way later, and large groups of people will remember this concept, like remember this in history, very differently.
Yeah, but the Mandela Effect goes way beyond just that case. That's probably just the most famous case.
Oh, absolutely. Here's another really good example of one, the Monopoly man. Does he have a monocle or no?
No monocle.
No monocle. But people are absolutely convinced whenever you look at it, people fail that one on the internet all the time.
I'm not from the universe where he had a monocle, clearly.
No, but a lot of people, they do. You know what? Because Vic doesn't know this because he doesn't use Instagram, but there's this really cool filter where you can use the Mandela Effect, and it gives you an option of two things, and you like move your head left or right. And I was watching a bunch of reels of people playing that, and everybody gets the monocle wrong for the Monopoly guy.
I think a lot of them you can break down into a few categories. One of them being things that could be easily mistaken based off pronunciation or not looking at something very closely. Cheez-It versus Cheez-Its. Things like, is there 2 Fs or 1 F in double stuffed Oreos? There's a lot of brand label ones where I could see mostly this is going to be based on regional pronunciation and someone just not viewing a package extremely close.
Does Kit Kat have a dash in between
it or
not?
That's one of them.
Does it?
I don't know. I never eat Kit Kats.
No, they don't. It does not have a dash in between, but a lot of people think it does.
The next one I'd call kind of the meme ones, where something has been memed to a point where everyone misquotes it. Kind of like the Luke, I am your father, where Darth Vader never says, Luke, I am your father. Darth Vader just says, I am your father. And there's tons of other references along those lines as well, where it's just, my assumption on those is that it's been memed so much that we remember that memory better. The final one that I kind of like to call type 3s are the ones where they are more major events with a higher level of consistency running through them, with a greater degree of detail given to them as well. And type 3s are kind of where I want to focus on, but there's one that I want to ask you, Marcus, because originally I was preparing a quiz for everyone, but I kind of got sidetracked on a few really specific ones. And you consider yourself a religious Catholic person, right?
I do.
Okay. I'm going to ask you something from Isaiah 11:6. And this is going to be a fill in the blank. The blank shall also dwell with the Lamb. The blank shall also dwell with the Lamb.
All right. First of all, I'm Catholic. We don't read the Bible. Okay. We got the Spark Notes for the stained glass windows. Thank you very much, by the way.
But I kind of feel like most people could get this one. I did this with a few other people, and
say that one more time. Say it one more time.
The blank shall also dwell with the Lamb. Oh, sorry. The blank also shall dwell with the Lamb.
I give up the sun.
No. Okay, that's weird because almost everyone says the lion shall also dwell with the lamb. Mm-hmm. But that's not true. The verse is the wolf shall also dwell with the lamb, and there's accounts going back at least to I think it was 1912 of priests trying to figure out, why does everyone misquote this verse? Why does everyone think that it's this way when it's not?
I can answer that. People change like translations of the Bible all the time.
But it's consistently wolf among those translations.
True. And I'm sure a lot of people, for the ways that they remember stuff, a lot of times there could be, oh gosh. Okay, here we go. Here's another one that said, like, with the Catholic, because at a certain point, I swear, there'll just be this change in Catholic doctrine, but not everybody gets it. Like, the phrase, like, the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
No, and it's within your spirit, or with your, something akin to that. I've been in a while. But they changed it about, 10 years ago. Actually, maybe even longer than that. But a lot of people still remember it. And I've actually seen similar people that have started calling that particular thing another example of the Mandela effect. But we know whenever it shifted.
I'm not certain that this is a Mandela effect. I'm not certain it's not either. I just thought it was very fascinating when to bring it up because I thought it was a lion, and it looks like it's remained wolf consistently through church doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I haven't, and other researchers haven't been able to point to a point where it was ever changed. There's just this odd swap that no one's been able to address why.
To be fair, people have been misquoting the Bible since it was written.
That's true, and I think this might be a really good example of it, but it makes me wonder, too, though, why of it. It seems like a very strange thing, especially since so worked up that many people get about being able to perfectly quote the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems somewhat odd to me. And I tried this on Ellie, who she grew up in a Catholic school. She sang choir, kind of specializing in religious songs. And she's like, I would have been certain it was lion. Even in most of the songs, it's lion.
Mm-hmm. No, but I think I attribute the fact that I think that some people just get so... I think some people just get so used to a thought or a memory of something like that I think that it just seems to just stick with them. Well, but I will fit better. But I will say that's a pretty interesting. That's a pretty good example.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that's really stuck with me, and I really wanted to bring that one up because I kind of felt like it would speak to you as well.
Right.
Another one I wanted to talk about though is Spirited Away, one of my favorite movies. I don't know if it's my very favorite movie, but it's way up there. Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki, freaking awesome. I know I've made you watch this before.
I have.
This is one that occurs almost only in Japan. But people will remember there being something that happens after the family goes through the tunnel at the end. That there's a additional scene that goes on where they get to their new house, and it's just kind of a closed little wrap-up scene. There's nothing special, no major narrative points occurs in it. But it's just this nice little ending where they now arrive home safe, and they're walking around and they're looking at their new house, and there's a few lines of dialogue that occur there. Lots and lots and lots of people in Japan remember this ending.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no account of it ever existing. Actually, there's not even an extended cut of that movie. And even Miyazaki himself has come out and said, no, there was never anything after the tunnel scene. It ends when they go through the tunnel, and there was never anything more.
That's really weird.
But a huge amount of the population, and they remember what happens consistently to the point where they've gone together and recreated the scene. Mm-hmm. With most people being like, that's it. That's what I saw. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's very fascinating. I've seen it plenty of times, and I don't remember anything going on after the tunnel scene. I remember it ending when they go through the tunnel. But this is one that mainly only occurs in Japan. Some of the theories being along the lines of, maybe there was a cut that was released in limited proportion, but Miyazaki is not really known for being dishonest, and Miyazaki was both the writer and the director.
Well, are you sure that there might not be some type of bootleg fan created scene that's out there? Because there's an example of, say, the Mandela Effect, when it comes to the movie Kazam versus the movie Shazam, whether or not if some people remember the movie Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal where he's playing the genie, and then other people remember Sinbad playing the genie, and the movie's called Shazam. I think is what it's called.
And I want to get into this one too, but addressing that, I know I've made you watch some of the Studio Ghibli stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their technology and their art and their style is very hard to recreate because they use very high quality artists, very high quality animation materials. A bootleg adding a scene would not have been able to do it, and also there was voices in it, there was dialogue.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true, because with the Shazam and Sinbad, do you realize that they actually did a bootleg scene with Sinbad some time ago, actually, that floats around where he actually shot some scenes dressed as the guy from Sinbad that everybody thought that he was, and that's floating out there, sort of reinforcing that sort of Mandela effect.
I mean, yes, but that'd be easier to recreate, assuming you can get Sinbad to agree to it.
Well, yeah, he did.
But the sort of animation budget it would take to produce those scenes would be a much higher amount of investment. And also, most of these people claim that they remember this when it originally came out on TV in Japan.
Well, that would be the same thing for people remember whenever the movie came out for Sinbad or for Kazam. That's what I'm saying. People said the same thing.
It'd be more difficult to bootleg. I wouldn't say that it's impossible, but also, why would the TV stations be playing the bootleg version when they had the rights to the actual?
I don't know.
And how would they acquire all the voice actors?
No. It would be floating around the internet probably. Like in some way, it'd have to be floating around it'd have to be floating around somewhere on the internet, or it'd have to be
I'm following you now. I thought you were saying with the original thing.
No.
If it does exist out there, no one's been able to find it. Now, what some people did was they did recreate the scene they didn't want it to occur where they create the scene and then people go, oh, that's what people saw. So what they did is they recreated it using Minecraft. That way it wouldn't look the same, but they could still convey what the scene was like. Mm-hmm. So that does exist. But that was more to try to have a visual element to what people saw without people going, no, they just saw this and retrofit their memory.
I still think that can just reinforce someone's inaccurate memory of doing something even through Minecraft. I still think...
Let me ask you this. If that's what caused it to come into existence, why would they have made that video?
No. What I'm saying is I think that still creating it in Minecraft could still taint people's perceptions of what it was. Like what happened when they made the Sinbad fan thing.
Oh, certainly. Memory's incredibly ephemeral.
It didn't go away whenever whenever they made that bootleg Sinbad or Shazam scene. It just made it worse.
The unfortunate thing when dealing with memory is it's so ephemeral that there's not really an impossibility to memory because of like how our minds work and how the science of memory works. It's hard to give there's no way to say objectively anything is not misremembered because we know that we can misremember almost anything, even to extreme details. That's why I think it's only interesting when it happens with major events and a high enough population. That's why I don't really care that much for some of the other ones, but some of the type 3s, and I'm not even going to say all of them, but some of them have me thinking. And one of them that does get me thinking is that the Spirited Away. And of course I picked that one just because it is one of my favorite movies and I've watched it 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. Although I've never seen this ending.
Right. Well, I mean, but I also think that people take extreme offense to the concept of saying that they remembered something inaccurately. And I think that really needs to be brought up in this particular episode because I've seen this a lot. I mean, we're talking about the paranormal. So you're talking about instances where people are talking about their experiences like with the paranormal oftentimes whenever they were kids. And, so sometimes when you're dealing with the paranormal and you're talking to people, we've talked about screen memories before.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Okay. Where's this concept where your mind will create this memory in your head to protect you or shield you from something. That's that's sort of the definition to it. Or something's implanted in your head by, Greys, aliens, the Men in Black, whoever, super science government people, whatever. And they do that. There's been instances in which we've had people that have come to us to tell us about their paranormal experience. And I swear, when we brought up the concept of a screen memory, they take offense. Oh, yeah. They've got it very, very offended at even floating that idea.
I remember that someone had brought down a description of an event that had happened, and the event didn't make a lot of sense, but it was very similar to some of the themes that I had seen in other people who believed they had screen memories. I floated the idea to you, you floated the idea to them, and they got mad. Well, the thing is, I think it's a two-part issue. I think one part is a lot of people don't realize how ephemeral memory really is. And the other part, I think that they feel like they're attacking your credibility. Right. Where we're not saying your memory is bad. We might say all memory is bad. Mm-hmm. But I still think that there's important notes within the experience, especially when there's consistencies outside of it.
Right. Well, I also think, too, people are also deeply afraid of the idea that their memories of something may be inaccurate or something that's important to them might not necessarily have happened that way.
And think about the mental health stigma we've talked about plenty of times on this channel because we both have that history in mental health.
Which is the reason about why, if you ever listened to our episode, we talked about, are we living in a simulation? And you said, well, I don't think that many. And a lot of people will make the same, I don't think it would be that big of a deal to me. For this particular reason, when you talk about how offended people get when they don't remember something correctly because it may or may not have happened that way, or it may not be real, or that might be. That's why the reason why I think that way more people would be way more traumatized by that.
Yeah, but I could then say perhaps the reason why we have these inconsistencies and even in our own memories is because we're living in a simulation. And my choice is either to go
yeah.
nuts over the simulation
Right.
I probably can't escape, or
Right.
accept it and have a happy
Right.
life. That's going to be my
Well,
response.
I mean, that's one of the that's sort of one of the paranormal explanations about the reason about
before
why.
we go into explanations,
Oh, sure.
I wanted you to talk about, because we have talked about
Yeah.
the Mandela Effect a little bit in other videos, but we probably haven't given it this sort of addressing. And in past videos, you have mentioned a bit of a connection with the Mandela Effect in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was wanting you to speak on that here before we moved on.
Well, that was the first time that I ever experienced the Mandela Effect for that, because I was talking with my dad. And my dad's a major in history, and
And I mean, like, major.
Yeah,
I
he's
thought
huge.
I knew history until I talked to this guy.
like my dad's at this point where he's just buying books. My dad's buying books from the 1970s just to watch the way that people had perceived history from like previous time periods, and that's where he's gotten to this point with history. But anyway, we were talking about Tiananmen Square, and for the longest time, I honestly thought the guy from Tiananmen Square, like back like in the Tiananmen Square incident happened in it was in 1989. And it was a gentleman that stands out in front of the tanks, and it's a very powerful image.
Real baller dude, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's the image that's in our head. For the longest time, I really believe that I remember the tanks just rolling the guy over, and that was my perspective of what it was. And my dad's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "No, I remember. Like that's what happened, right? Like the tanks roll over the guy." And he goes, "No, they didn't roll over the guy." and that was what happened. He said, "Actually, people really don't know what happened to the guy. Actually,
No, he disappeared shortly after that. The way I remember it is, and tell me, I don't remember if this is the correct one, because some people remember a few different things.
Yeah,
That the guy with the bicycle kind of came up and kind of got him to move out of the way of the tanks before they killed him.
But there's even more Mandela effects even after that of, he just moved on. He was fine. There's other people that
The Chinese government killed him, I'm certain.
No, well, yeah, that's one of them too, that he was shot by a firing squad 14 days later. Problem is we really don't know because nobody can find him anymore. So there's probably the latter.
If I remember right, we didn't even have 100% confirmation on the name of the person.
Right, yeah.
We just knew that it was this one valiant person standing up to the authoritarian machine.
Yeah, but a lot of different people perceived what happened with him very differently. And what's really weird is the way in which that made people perceive that particular situation based on how they perceived that. Based on how they perceive what happened.
Or they perceived it correctly, and they're from an alternate universe where it had gone down differently.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the idea about behind the Mandela effect is that you have different people from different realities sort of splicing in and out.
But there is one more thing on that we need to address.
Oh, sure.
Many of the people who have experienced the belief that that person was ran over also remembers there being a massive anti-Chinese government uprising, causing them to kind of fall in line with the global community, which we know didn't happen. But they remember this, they don't just remember the one strange event, they also recall the fallout from it, which that's when it becomes interesting to me, because I could easily say, well, probably what happened was they had looked away and then they had assumed the ending. But that doesn't make as much consistent sense with the fallout. And that's what makes that one become particularly interesting for me.
Right. So you ready to get into
let's get into the whys and the possibilities.
One of the most popular thoughts is that essentially what's going on with the Mandela effect is that there's an infinite number of realities out there. Like for every possible decision that could happen, there's an infinite bunch of realities in which that particular happened. This
isn't entirely outside the realm of science, although I don't care for string theory. A lot of string theorists talk about this. I'm not a big string theory person, though.
It's like the idea of I have a quarter in my hand and I offer it to Vic. There's a reality where Vic just takes it from my hand. There's a reality where Vic says, no, I don't need it. There's a reality where Vic shoots me and takes the coin. There's a reality where Vic shoots me and doesn't take the coin. There's a reality where Vic turns into a purple dinosaur and bats off my head. There's a reality where he gets mad thinking that I'm saying he's poor. There's just all these different realities.
I don't know about the purple dinosaur one. I don't think that would jive.
According to it, there's an infinite possibilities of what happens or outcomes. So
yes, but doesn't the event still have to follow with?
No.
Assuming that their universe, are we assuming their universe functions on similar rules or not? Because I'm okay with either. And in the latter, I think I'm using the latter right. I will give it to you. I could have turned into a purple dinosaur.
No, I don't think it has to. I think if you have an infinite number of possibilities,
that is even more interesting. I actually really like that.
You get that for a lot of other examples in which people have used the Mandela effect. But anyway, what you have is people believe that what happens is essentially there's bleed over. You end up in another reality, or another reality person ends up in our reality for whatever causes it. And that explains the Mandela effect. And this can happen to multiple people at once, one person, what have you. Some people blame the Hadron Super Collider event and said that was what it was. But I think people are just blaming stuff on science way more than... I mean, I think it gets blamed for way more than probably what happened because people have a hard time understanding what it is. They're like, yeah, the people are messing with stuff they shouldn't. That's probably what caused all this paranormal shit.
Okay, first, I'm not putting it... Okay, the mechanism on why it occurs, I'm not putting it outside science or mysticism or fairies or anything else because I do not have a good explanation on why it occurs. So I don't have a strong stance on the why. I'm more interested in the possibilities of these colliding universes. Like, because here's one of the things. Here's what makes me skeptical on the colliding universe thing. I could believe that if string theory is true and these exist and there may be a mechanism for them to drip near, that someone could get dropped off or picked up. The thing is this, you never really end up with two of the same person. There seems to be an exchange, or the other ones for some reason vanishes because you don't really end up with two people, one of them believing what we would consider the correct timeline and one believing a deviant timeline. Mm-hmm. You end up with one person who believes in the deviant timeline and leaving us to assume maybe the remaining person went there and is believing something that would be deviant to that universe. Mm. So either like maybe it's more of a memory swap between two people, but the thing is, we don't know how matter is going to engage with itself when it's the same matter from a different universe.
But again, I think you're suffering from a numeracy with like not understanding the concept of numbers. Because if you're dealing with a situation in which an infinite number of possibilities exist, and an infinite number of possibilities, 1 to infinity number of people can perceive it the same way.
Oh, so, but it's definitely, it's not a numerably. My issue is this. If there's an issue with the two universes having some sort of exchange, right?
Right.
I could believe that there's a mechanism that could dump someone off or pick someone up. It's harder for me to believe that the mechanism switches Marcus D in universe A with Marcus D in universe B in a perfect conjunction. Because you would think that one universe would end up with two and one would end up with none would be more likely than a perfect swap. So it's not really an issue of a numerably, which I can never say that word correctly.
A numeracy.
A numeracy. I always screw up that word, but my issue is that's a strange mechanism to exist.
Unless it's an outside force like the Hadron Super Collider causing it.
Then perhaps, or if it's an intentional exchange, then that would make more sense to me.
I like to point out that the Hadron Collider came on in 2008, and all of a sudden we get this coined term in 2010. Just saying.
Like I said, I'm not going to say it's an impossibility. I just think it's bosons they are shooting bosons at each other. And we don't know bosons very well. Now, I would doubt that if you hit a boson with another boson at high speeds, it causes two people from universes to change spots. That seems strange to me. But I'm not going to call it impossible.
Again, assuming that's the only thing that's causing. That's exactly what they're doing. And
yeah, and maybe they're not shooting bosons at each other. Maybe they're doing something else.
We've also got instances in which people have been vaporized, and there's just their shadow like freaking left on the wall.
Or that guy who took a bunch of molecules straight to the face.
Yeah, so it's hard to exactly know exactly what may or may not. Yeah,
don't hang out in a super collider.
Yeah, don't. You think that it's gonna be like Dr. Manhattan, like from The Watchmen, but no.
No, you're just gonna be like fully numb in one side of your body.
You'll just or vaporized. That's
those molecules are small, but they're really moving really fast.
But here's the weird thing, man. If you watch so many videos out there about the Mandela effect, so many people really will just float the idea out there that we're in alternate realities rather than the possibility that we're just forgetting stuff.
I know.
That our memory is just bad.
I think everyone on some level is accepting, like even in this discussion, one of the things I think is a possibility is that for some reason we are group misremembering, which I think is a very interesting, like I'm not putting it past it. There could be a mysterious psychological reason. And the reason I say mysterious is because you should have a greater level of deviation within some of these better remembered memories than there are. So I would call it a mysterious psychological reaction.
But I think the reason for that is often more to how much more information a person is exposed to now in the age of information as compared to before. Because if you look at instances of the Mandela effect, they're like all post-internet.
Nope.
Sorry. Let me phrase it. I'm sorry. Hang on. Sorry. The vast majority of examples
Yes.
pop up post. However, not all of them. However, a lot of them also will go to, say, prior to, like, 1970, still when mass media is a thing.
Many of them are much older than that.
I know. Well, I said not as many.
Well, the issue is one of the things that I would say is an issue is we have a name for it. People who go back and look for these have a hard time because they don't know what to search for as a term within old documents because there wasn't a term for it. So that makes it very hard for them to find.
Well, again,
but we can confirm that these sort of things did exist.
I'm sure that they did. But what I'm saying is with the invention of mass media, you have an example in which people are exposed to the average person today. The average person right now has more information at their fingertips than anybody else throughout human history. So
I don't think anyone's arguing that point.
So what I'm saying is the purpose of that is since you were exposed to so much information, there is no way that you can remember all of it.
Well,
is what I'm saying.
Of course.
Right.
That's why we have the internet, because we can't remember all this stuff.
That's why I'm saying the vast majority of examples in which of the Mandela effect all are seen to be post-mass media when you have this.
But also, giving something a name allows it to be structured and communicated more easily. Like in past situations, we don't really know how often it may have occurred because we don't have good search terms and good words to look for in academia. We have to look for people just using precise enough language to recognize it.
Right. I'm not saying, well, again, I still think the fact that it's still harder to find is also evident, again, of my point of that mass media contributed to it way more.
Well, my point is more, it's hard to find something where you don't have a term. I think you're likely correct.
Right.
But I'm not willing to say that's definitely true.
But I'm not saying that I think that there's still examples of it before mass media because it could still happen because there's still major news, major events, and then has to be and that's perceived by the world and people can get it wrong. I'm sure. Of course. That they can. But mass media causes just there to be more of these, and that's the reason why.
And it's communicated more easally nowadays.
Right. But I think there's more of those type 1, type 2s that we were talking about.
Oh, so many. There's so many now.
Right.
I usually found a list of hundreds.
Rather than type 3.
And I would say, for the most part, type 2 is spawned almost entirely because of the internet. Maybe not solely, but the basically, I know you can meme without the internet, but it's a lot easier for us to meme now we have it, and I think that acceleration causes a lot of the type 2 ones to exist.
Right. But again, I'm not saying that there aren't examples of type. Well, I guess if you look at history manipulation campaigns that people have done, that's an example of like type 3. But we know people are manipulating people's perceptions of history to do that. But to cause it that way, I guess.
Because there's definitely been plenty of cases where history was intentionally misstructured.
Right. So, examples of that. So yeah. So that's my point on that. But people just, I found that just interesting that people really would just get so upset at the idea that the possibility that we're just bad remembering things is just so out there that more people are willing to accept
I think
that
most
we're in
people.
realities.
I should say I make the assumption that most people address that as a possibility and has arrived at a different conclusion. But if I'm wrong, what I would say to those people is, you need to consider this more seriously.
Right.
But at the same time, like, even if it is a memory thing, for some of these, it's an extraordinary memory adjustment on the scale of mass hysteria. Some of them share a odd level of detail occurring at a near simultaneous time. So that makes me think that if this is a psychological occurrence, it's something that is more of an extraordinary occurrence that we may not fully understand as of yet.
We understand it as of now. That's not we already know now in psychology the examples in which how groups of people's pressure on a particular person will affect their perception of reality.
Yes, the smoke test, the gorilla test, the ball test. We know all those, but many of these are occurring with stark detail around the same time without the ability to communicate with each other. All these tests require a social structure where you're exposed to other people sharing that belief, and often these have occurred near simultaneously without any evidence that they have had any communication or exposure to the idea.
Right, but we already know that groups of people can pressure people into changing the perception. So
that's why I said they occurred nearly simultaneously, because they haven't had time. The idea has not had time to spread, and they have not had exposure to this idea yet. That's what makes it interesting and distinct, because in all the tests that we're bringing up, you already had to have a population that was enforcing the viewpoint.
But I think even if you look at examples examples of, say, like mass propaganda campaigns, like with media campaigns, I think you can find examples of that in which people will just blatantly perceive perceptions of history, even if it's inaccurate. They're not necessarily together.
I'm pointing at points where the idea has not yet propagated, but you can find separate populations that have not been in communication with each other believing this idea.
Yeah, but it's hard to know exactly. It's hard sometimes to know exactly whether or not there's been a connection between the two.
It is difficult,
right?
And at the same time, this would be extremely hard to study in a laboratory situation, because you would need like disparate populations and things. Like, the problem is this data point is extremely hard to track, and that's why I'm just using anecdotal information.
Right.
Because I couldn't tell you how to get quantifiable information. I couldn't think of a test to make this work.
No, I think examples of I think of mass media propaganda examples. I think
No.
Yeah.
For the last time,
Yeah.
that is not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about something distinctly different.
No, but I just as an example of which people even groups of people that weren't exposed to the propaganda still getting the propaganda to them. I still think you can see examples of it.
But I'm talking about cases before the idea was distributed. Okay, let's say that a propaganda thing has not yet been distributed, but will in the future. Mm-hmm. But 5 days before that, we can cite this case here and this case here that both already believed it. But we can establish that it's extremely unlikely the two cases have had communication with each other. Mm-hmm. And then when the thing hits, then they're like, oh yeah, this has been a thing.
Can you give an example of that? Like with
Yes, actually, I found some when tracking the thing with the Spirited Away one, mm-hmm. where they had tracked two different people that were stating it that seemed to be unconnected with each other.
Oh, but to be fair though, Spirited Away have been traveling around the country for a while.
Oh, the movie, yes, but the idea of this hidden scene was not. So that would be the example, the propaganda part that would come out later.
But if you look at the concept of 6 degrees of separation, in which how people know each other or how ideas spread, it's really hard to say that people. It's hard to say like what really influences you.
But there is no signs of communication between them.
No, yeah, I'm not saying that you. Sometimes you can't point to it, but a lot of times we have seen examples in which ideas can spread to two groups of people. I think that we have seen stuff like that before.
I'm not saying that that's impossible.
Right.
I'm saying it's unlikely, and that's what makes me think that it's extraordinary.
Yeah, or
like I think we might, if it is psychological, we're dealing with something that we need to examine further. Mm-hmm. Like there's been some studies into the collective subconscious that makes it seem like there might be something to the collective subconscious. And this might be something that would fall into that.
Well, or that it's hard for everybody to remember exactly how we have been affected by other people. Like it's, again...
I think it'd be more likely that it would be a statistical anomaly.
Like trying to write down every single person that you interacted with yesterday. You are probably going to miss people that you interacted with in some way. And there may be instances in which you didn't even know that you were interacting.
I'm a shut-in, but...
but if you think about it, like trying to write down like example, like if you wrote down like with me and my wife, if I wrote down everybody that I interacted with, and she wrote down everybody that I interacted with, she may actually come up with people that may have actually impacted me that I didn't even realize and that was on there.
Yeah, but interaction doesn't equivocate to spread of specific information.
But a lot of times we don't. A lot of times you can pick up information from people and not even realize it.
But often me and you have conversations.
Correct.
And then you go out and meet someone, that person meets someone, that person meets someone, and we get the 6 points of exchange.
Right.
Being able to extrapolate that conversation had spread from me to you to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, I would say is highly unlikely.
I would say it is unlikely, but it's not impossible.
No. Oh, in statistics, you don't say impossible. Like, I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I would be being a silly Billy to the 5th degree if I said it was impossible.
Right.
I would be the silliest of all Billies.
Right.
You would have to build a statue of me with that title.
Man.
I kind of want a statue now that says that.
It's got metaphysical pretty quick.
It did. Quick. But I want to go back to a point where I don't think it's likely that what we're seeing here is an exchange of dimensions. Because normally when you have exchanges, you usually don't have this perfect exchange. Unless there's some law of science that keeps it regular, which also in itself seems peculiar to me. I don't think that that's what's occurring. I would say out of the ones that we've discussed, the abnormal psychological angle, I think is more likely. But I think there's other really out there possibilities I'd like to talk about. I know we're getting on time. I want to talk about one more before we go to the patron segment.
Sure.
The idea that people are screwing with time, and that when the timelines spin back together, not every neural memory is reconnected correctly. So when the timeline adjusts, then not every memory is properly changed in the process. Right. And I think that's more likely because we don't have to extrapolate a weird law that keeps equivalent exchange between people and dimensions, which seems very odd.
Right.
I'm not going to say this one's likely, but I think that this is something that's fun to think about.
No, I think this is something that could cause Mandela effects for people because because again because not every we have a general standard for how humans' brain chemistry works, but there are deviations amongst everybody and different things affect different people differently. It's like certain people being able to pick up and getting headaches, from 5G or whatever, or other people picking up sounds or something that they pick up because of waves that are out there. Like this is just stuff that we know that some people are more susceptible to.
And there's kind of two general theories on time travel on its after effect. There's the divergent and the convergent theory. The divergent is you go back, change something, and you get a universe where it happened where it was unchanged and a universe where it happened where it wasn't changed. The convergent one is where the two timelines now meld together into a single coherency. And the thing is, what we're already talking about is effectively coherency. We have people who believe something that's out of coherency with the rest of us, which makes me think if time does work in such a way where the two... I'm saying coherency, I meant continuity. If we are working within the time travel hypothesis where the two lines merge into a singular continuity, I would believe that it would be possible for someone's continuity not to have been fully changed.
I feel like you are literally describing the idea behind the Loki series on Disney Plus.
I like the Loki series.
Yeah, I know. There's this there's this police force out there that's gonna start rounding up people that are affected by the Mandela effect. They're like, oh, that person thinks that Mandela's out of prison. Got him.
Hey, this guy over here. He thinks the guy got ran over by the tank. Shoot him.
That this might start. Now, I believe that we all know how terrible the government is and how some of these clandestine organizations can be. I really want you guys to be on the lookout now for time police. Those of you that might feel you are suffering from Mandela effect or experience it, please go back to some of our earlier episodes about how to avoid getting black bagged.
We used to do a black bag tip of the day.
Yeah. Here, black bag tip of the day. Don't tell people if you feel like you're experiencing the Mandela effect. Don't say it out loud.
This has been a hell of a talk. I really like this one.
This has been a ride. No, let's get into some final thoughts. I think that as we go through life, I think we're playing a advanced game of telephone, like when we were kids. Like remember when you were a kid and you'd all sit in a circle, you'd say an idea to one person and would go around secretly to the room. By the time that it got back to you, it is a nothing.
It's a Chinese whispers theory, which I don't like that term, but that's what people call it.
That's why I said the telephone game.
I kind of find it to be a little bit of a racist term, but that's what.
Why I said the telephone game. But we do that where we put out these ideas or we get ideas just from so many people, and a lot of times we don't even realize that we're picking this information up. I mean, really, I remember this really cool experiment that one of my philosophy professors did when me and Vic were in college, and she said, go out and start keeping track of the time that you see an advertisement. Okay, and you'll stop doing it after about 2 minutes because you're gonna write like 50 ticks really quick.
Was this Stoll?
Yeah.
I remember this class.
So, but it makes you realize how much information comes to you without you even realizing it. And I think that oftentimes can end up affecting your memories in ways in which people just don't even realize. And I think that's part of the Mandela. That being said, I'm not saying there can't be paranormal causes for Mandela effects out there. I'm not going to say that we don't have the possibility for this to pop up.
We could go totally SCP and say it's a paranormal mimetic effect.
Yes. But I think the vast majority of them I think are explained by memory, by just are just how ephemeral memory is.
Oh God, my final thoughts. I don't think any of the theories that are currently out there are a sufficient answer. Truthfully, if something's occurring, I kind of think it's potentially on the universal subconscious or a subconscious mechanism that we don't fully understand, or a physics mechanism that is way outside our understanding. I think that there is something occurring, but I don't think I've been satisfied by any answer I've received from anyone. But also, I wanted to give you guys an update when you're talking about looking out for like Men in Black and stuff. I realized that I never gave an update to the experiment I did where I would like pinch myself in public and look for mannequin people. The update is I didn't find any mannequin people, and I just pinched myself a bunch of times.
All right. Let us know what you guys think below. Comment below what your favorite Mandela effect is. I would love to hear some of the Mandela effects that we didn't get into. I know the Berenstain Bears is a popular one.
I think it's just teachers mispronouncing the name when they're reading the book to people. I really think that one might be
because you're reading it to kindergartners, and Berenstain or Bernstein would be one that would make us all fail the spelling test. Yeah, that's how I relate that. I don't even think I can pronounce. I've heard that phrase 50 times researching this episode, and I still can't pronounce it right.
Oh, I totally grew up with Bernstein. What about you?
Huh?
Did you grow up with Bernstein or Bearstein?
Again, man, I'm Catholic. We don't read. We use the pictures, okay? That's how I'm more concerned about what the bears look like they're doing in it to give you the gist of what's going on.
And I will add a slight nod of Catholic art is usually pretty.
Yes. And gets the job done, apparently. So, put that below. Do you guys think that the Mandela Effect is actually caused by people's lapse of memory? Do you think that there's some other explanation? Was there an explanation for the Mandela Effect that me and Vic didn't get to? I thought we actually did. So if there's another one that's out there, please let us know. We could
I know there's some.
I'm sure there is. Let us know. If you're listening to this somewhere, please hit that like button. Leave us a review. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that notification bell.
And thank you all for listening.
Please, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it so much. We've seen an uptick in listeners and subscribers, and to everybody who's new listening to us, we appreciate it. You know, the other day, someone commented that we sounded like coast to coast. And
I always like that when I hear that.
I do. I get the warm and fuzzies. So I really appreciate that. We didn't really think when we started this anybody would want to listen to the two of us ramble.
Yep.
So, that's just that being said. But until next time, guys, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.
All right, guys, we're going to slide into the Pillow Talk segment of this podcast. If you want to check out the rest of this awesome podcast, all you got to do is go over to our Patreon and sign up. For as little as $1 a month, you get the rest of this awesome podcast, as well as bonus episodes that we put up. And if you sign up to be $2 more a month, you get to vote on the poll for the theme for next month. So let's keep this conversation going about the men.
There were some random things I wanted to throw out real quick. First, I'm coming around on these like gumball head beers.
It's just an IPA. It's all the same thing.
But I've just eaten vegan food today.
Okay.
So I'm feeling loose.
I gotta know. IPAs are like the ketchup bottles of the alcohol world because they just put different covers, but it's the same thing.
The other thing I wanted to throw out is a trap I got caught in, and I want to warn all of you to not get caught in it. If you are at the gym with a trainer, which I've been doing to kind of get over some muscle atrophy from when I was sick, if they go, today you're going to do my leg day or my arm day, don't do it. It is a trap to incapacitate you for several days. It is just say no. Say no to that.
No, you say no when they're like, would you like to sign up to be a gym membership? I'm like, hell no, I'm not giving you my money.
Dude, we did his leg day, and I barely went. Like, I'm doing the noodle leg thing, just like, get to the car. And even today, I can barely stand up and walk.
Why would you pay for